Hello, viewers. Welcome again to yet another episode of Business Talk with Tag TV. I'm your host, Sparsh Sharma, and today we've had the pleasure of sitting down with Jeff Solomon from Blendable. Now, if you're wondering who's Blendable, so let's hear it from Jeff, a father of two beautiful children and a successful entrepreneur in this space.
Absolutely. So 15 years ago, I was in the financial industry, and my main focus of business was on the group benefit side. Having a look at the way benefits work and the cost of benefits to small employers, I looked at it and it was like, okay, you know what? Here's my cost of my benefits, say $10,000 a year in premium, and my employees are spending $5,000 in claims. So if you look at those numbers, that's essentially saying, you know what, a $100 dental claim is costing me $200 at the end of the day. There just has to be a better way to pay these claims. And in reality, all a benefit program is on the health and dental side is me as an employer paying for my employees' health care. It's a transaction that happens every day. How much am I paying to have these claims paid? Is it reasonable to pay 100% or a $100 claim costs me $200 at the end of the day? In my opinion, that's not reasonable. So there has to be a better way. So that's when we got together and we started Blendable.
Amazing. So for the last 15 years, how many clients or company clients did you end up having?
I think we're sitting around the 4,000 companies right now, in that range. Now, number of employees, we could be 40, 50,000 at this point. I'm not exactly sure of the numbers. You know, it changes every day, and I would say we're growing, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 companies, sometimes in a day, 4 or 5 in a week on average. So it adds up in a hurry, actually.
Yeah, that's quite impressive. And yet you were saying that you are just about 1% of the total industry?
Yeah, the total group benefit market in Canada itself, and again, it's only Canadian companies, it's absolutely massive. So we're just a small player, but at the same time, sometimes the small players just do a little bit of a better job making sure that, you know, and again, we're just paying claims. It's not fancy.
Correct.
Right?
But then over the years, there's been this growing discontent among Canadian employers that they have to constantly keep shopping around. Every time there's a renewal, the costs are going up, especially post-COVID. And why aren't more people looking at Blendable so far?
It's education in the marketplace. Because remember, when you're looking at a benefits program, generally speaking, they're coming from the big providers. I don't want to use their names at this point, but the big providers and the insurance agents work for the big providers. So this is what they know and they understand. They don't look outside the box. So I really think that's a part of the challenge. And what you alluded to on why they shop around every year. Well, if you look at the cost to pay a claim, when an advisor comes in for a renewal that's, 20%, 30% higher, I know, and honestly, I did sell the traditional model for years. I didn't have to even look at any numbers whatsoever to know that if somebody had a traditional model, there's another provider that will buy that business for 20% less. Now it's only for a couple of years savings, and then your premiums, they catch up again. But it goes back to the same adage. Hey, here's my claims, here's my premium. Why am I paying so much? There just has to be a better way. Right? So.
It reminds me of the telecom companies. Every 2 years you end up on a new contract and more or less the same pricing here and there.
Pretty much the same idea, only I think their percentage, never mind. Pretty much the same idea, yes.
But Jeff, we've seen a couple of cases together, and I know that companies under 100 employees generally can end up saving almost $700 per employee. Okay, that can really add up, right?
Yes, absolutely. So really, with our models, we have 3 or 4 different models. The model you're speaking of, generally speaking, we're looking at employee numbers from 20 to 100 in that ballpark or above. Really what it is, we call it an EHB model. The industry acronym's an ASO, where, hey, here's my claims. How much are you going to charge me to pay the claims? without all the bells and whistles of IBNRs and pooling charges and different acronyms that the traditional providers utilize. At the end of the day, here's my claims, how much are you charging me? And if we just simply pay for the claims at a small percentage, the savings between the full-blown plan or a traditional model works out to about $700 per employee on the lower end. And it all depends. There's so many variations, but I can safely say it's between $500 and $700 per employee just to simply pay for your claims and be done with. Makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And it's such a simple idea, and yet the bigger companies haven't thought about it, that the cost control lever should be in the hands of the employer. And yet somehow there's been this tussle where all these big companies want to keep increasing the rates and never allow that sort of control lever or that power in the hands of the employer.
Right.
So that's where I think Blendable fits in so well, that there's a fixed amount the employer can give you or tell you, and then that's how much they're going to pay.
Yes, absolutely. So to go back a bit, let's back up to what we were speaking on, the savings of the $500 to $700 per employee. On an ASO plan, really what it's doing is it's mirroring a traditional plan. So that's one model. Okay. Now I'm really not controlling my costs, but I'm controlling what I pay to have a claim paid. That's what I'm controlling. So I'm not paying 100% to pay that claim. I'm paying, 10 to 18% depending on the size of my company. That's what I'm going to pay to have the claim paid. So I know exactly what it's going to cost me. Now, when we get into the lower groups, this is where it gets a little more interesting, because if we look at a premium-based plan where your cost per employee or your premium on health and dental, I know for a family, most of the plans nowadays are between $300 and $700 a month for a family.
Yes.
Okay. Well, if we start looking at those numbers, well, if we take $500 for example, wait a minute, that's $6,000 for the year. Well, as an employee of any company, that $6,000 is really part of my compensation, right? So if I look at it and I go, I know the average family is going to spend maybe $2,000 a year, maybe $3,000, what have you. Why wouldn't we take those funds, put them into a spending account, or think of it as a bank account for each employee for healthcare spending? Now it's all tax efficient, 100% coverage. So what we're doing is we're taking that booklet with 80% here, co-pays and, all the different things, your deductibles, what have you. Throw that book out the window. Here's your $6,000. Spend it however you like throughout the year. And, when I was just thinking about this on the way down here, if I'm an employee and I'm on a traditional model, I've got $1,000 cap for dental, and one of my children needs $2,000 worth of dental work.
Correct.
And I'm on a 20% copay. Well, to get that $1,000, I have to pay $200. But then I've run out of funds, so now I got to pay another $1,000. Wait a minute. If I had my share of my compensation, my $6,000, my child needs this dental work. Okay, let's put that money towards that.
Correct.
Right? So now that's 100% covered.
Yep.
There's a lot more value in that. Now I've got 100% coverage. I'm not pulling any money out of pocket. It's 100% tax efficient. But here's what really gets interesting. What we do with these style of plans is, rather than because the employee's retaining their asset, well, at the end of a time frame, what monies they haven't utilized, why don't we move that into a retirement program for them? So now I'm looking at it and go, okay, well, now I've got $2,000 to $3,000, maybe more, going into a retirement program on my behalf each year. And oh, by the way, the costs to my employer are the same. The employer's controlled his costs. I'm getting great value. Everybody's treated fair and equitably. I'm saving for retirement. How can you go wrong? Works really, really well.
Yeah, thank you so much for explaining that in so much detail, and this really makes so much sense. I wish that there were more employers out there, probably some of them listening to our show, that could be potentially now looking at Blendable as their new group benefits provider.
Yeah.
Because why not? It's sustainable,
Yes.
it's so much flexible, and it makes common sense.
Yes. It makes perfect sense for both the employee and the employer. You absolutely can't go wrong. And remember, I'm just talking on the health and dental side of it. Now, really a benefit program is two components. You have your real insurance, your life insurance, long-term disability, travel insurance. We provide that as well as any other insurance provider. But the problem areas are on the health and dental side.
Yeah.
So let's treat everybody fair and equitably, give them what they need for them and their family, make sure that, the only time we have a problem with a healthcare spending account model, and this is 20 members and under, it can be larger groups as well, but the only time we have a problem is when you have an employer that says, oh, you know what, I'm going to give each employee $50 a month in their spending account. Well, it's low funded, of course it's not that great. If we fund these properly and we make it the asset of the employee, eventually, so essentially what we do, the funds that are left over, we send them back to the employer reinvests them in a second plan for retirement. We facilitate that move for them, but really it's two separate plans. But the advantage of these style of plans is now as an employee, I'm really watching how I'm spending my money because I know that if I don't spend it, I'm going to retain that asset. Whereas with your other models of plans, the way they're structured, if I don't spend everything I possibly can on my benefit program, well, I'm not going to get that benefit. It's gone to me.
Yeah.
Whereas this, it totally takes away any sort of abuse or anything.
Exactly.
If you don't need that massage or you don't need
Correct.
that extra dental cleaning, that savings goes directly to the employee.
Correct.
And at the end of the day, the employer as well, because now he's contained his costs.
He's contained his costs,
Yes.
and the employee is happy.
Yes.
Because they've got what they needed out of the group plan. Now, you mentioned massages, so there's that there's a little bit of fraud sometimes happening where people think, oh, these are my benefits, I have paid for them, I have to somehow use them.
Yes.
And then they end up getting those invoices and stuff. Whereas if they had that flexibility that, okay, if I don't use that, it's still my money getting rolled into the RRSP.
Yes.
It would make so much sense for everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And like you mentioned, there's been so many examples where people have had dental situations, major dental not being covered or not having enough limits on their plans to cover something like braces or
Yes, absolutely.
crowns.
Crowns, anything. So the way the traditional benefit plans are structured, it gives you a great perception of coverage. I've got $1,000 to use here, I've got $500 to use here, but everything's capped, right? If I'm a family of 4 or 5 people and one person needs $3,000 this year, but they're capped off at $1,000.
Correct.
Now, obviously there's going to be years where, hey, I've spent my $5,000 or $6,000, it's gone, and I might have to pay out of pocket $3,000 or $4,000 in that 1 year. But over time, that's not going to be the case.
Correct.
Right? So you just have to be, and keep in mind on a traditional model, if I've got one person in my family who needs a lot of dental work, well, I'm capped off at $1,000 or $1,500 anyways, so I'm paying out of pocket anyways. So why not have a model that works for everybody in your family and you, and it allows you the opportunity to retain that for your retirement? It just makes more sense.
It's a win-win.
Yes.
And you mentioned massages. So acupunctures, massages, physio sessions now cost so much more than they did when all of these group insurance companies put together their plans. And I see there are limits. There are so many group plans that I see where there's limits of per session or per profession.
Correct.
Right? And then you might not need so much of a speech therapy or a nutritionist benefits as much as maybe you do for a massage or acupuncture or a physio, right?
Absolutely. So in the scenario with a spending account where the asset is the employees and they can spend it however they see fit, it should back up a bit. So essentially what happens with our model is in lieu of the $6,000 or the monthly premium of $500 to $700 going to the insurance company or traditional benefit plan, what we do is we take that and deposit it into an account for each employee. So they can see their balance is growing. They would go in and make a claim, what have you. But what it does is it gives them an ability, as you were alluding to spend all of their funds. If I have a son who he plays hockey or soccer or something and has a terrible accident, tears out a knee and needs a lot of massage therapy or physiotherapy,
correct,
well, a traditional plan's really not going to work because you're going to cap out at $300 or $500.
Yep.
Well, now what do? Well, now I'm paying out of pocket anyways.
Yeah.
So really to take control over what you're spending is extremely important. And remember, what people don't understand as employees is, hey, what my employer's paying on my behalf, that's part of my compensation. I should be retaining that. It should be 100% tax efficient for me.
Yeah.
It's just the way it should work that way, right?
So what's your vision for the industry and also for your company, Blendable? Where do you foresee yourself and the industry in the next 10 years?
10 years from now, I would say our company will be quite a bit bigger, but it's a long road ahead to change everybody's mindset, because realistically, I mean, we're dealing with 30, 40 years of people with their mentality is, hey, I've got my benefits through my company. Here's my guidelines. This is how it works. Nobody really thinks outside that box. Okay. So really, it's not an easy growth, if that makes sense, right? Because understanding benefits, there's so many moving parts, but at the end of the day, if you can simplify it and say, hey, look, here's my claims. How much am I paying to pay these claims? What's it costing me? There's got to be a better way. Why don't we let everybody retain their compensation, spend their money how they see fit? We'll use a company like Blendable. I would assume Blendable is the best, but let them pay the claims at a reasonable rate. What my employees or my members haven't claimed, let's allow them to retain that asset. It just makes more sense than, money's out the window that you never see again, right?
Yep. And Jeff, you also mentioned about the plan you have for individuals. So there's all these thousands of amazing good companies in the market, and then there's hundreds and thousands of incorporated individuals who could also benefit from having some sort of coverages in place because they don't get it from their work. So tell us a little bit about that plan.
Okay, absolutely. So I want to try to explain this as simply as I can. Okay, with a group plan with employees, what happens is we're putting money into a spending account, and your monies move forward to the next year, and then they'll move into a retirement program or back to the employer. Try to keep it as simple as we can. But when we're dealing with an employer, I'm the only one in my company. It's me and my family. I have a corporation. And keep in mind that health and dental benefits, really all they are is a corporation paying for its employees' health care with before tax dollars. That's all it is. The insurance component is minimal. So what we do for the individual incorporated companies, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for my monies to move forward into the next year, but it makes a lot of sense for my claims to move forward into the next year. So if I'm sitting as a single member incorporated company, the way we've structured these plans, what we do is we'll say, for example, we take a $3,000 deposit into a spending account. If that family spends $2,500 for the year, we're going to credit back the corporation, the $500 that's left over. But what's really nice about this is it's kind of like a real self-insurance. If one of my children needs braces or I need crowns or a big expense comes up throughout the year, we can actually let that claim move forward to next year, increase the contribution from my corporation to pay for that claim. So these plans work extremely well for your doctors, lawyers, single member incorporated companies. You just absolutely can't go wrong. All of that employer or that person's claims are going to be captured by their corporation. So really, it doesn't matter what the amount of the claim is, we're going to have the ability to capture that.
And then there are cases, Jeff, where some clients have to take care of their parents. So can they take care of their parents by taking some money out of the corporation?
Oh, absolutely. So the nice thing about a healthcare spending account model, and in reality a traditional plan could do the same thing, but the idea of a traditional plan is to try to control costs. With a healthcare spending account model, the guidelines are a little bit different. The people that can claim under you are anybody who's related by marriage or blood and is financially dependent on you. So if your parents are financially dependent on you and they need a lot of care, maybe in a nursing home or what have you, now we can make that a business expense for my corporation because now they're your dependents. So it works really, really well.
this is the most flexible plan that I have come across in the industry compared to all the other group insurance options.
Absolutely, because remember, it's all about paying claims and making sure. And if you back up a bit, I mean, the traditional models, they're giving you guidelines and a premium. Well, they want to make money off that, so the guidelines are there to stop you from spending your money, right? They could open it up, hey, you can spend it whatever you want, but what would they charge you in premium, right? And at the end of the day, you as a business owner, you want to make sure you're able to claim everything. So why not open up a spending account? Let's make sure everything's claimable, or I'm able to put it all through my corporation. It's all on side with the government programs or CRA. We're making sure that everything's covered. It just makes a whole lot more sense, and we know what we're paying to pay that claim.
Wonderful. So I hope that our viewers today are able to think of having a health spending account or the HSA Select for incorporated individuals as something that they could use going forward. So have a chat with me and I'll be happy to help you with that. And Jeff, for the last question, tell us a little bit about your personal side of things. I know that you are an Ironman runner and you've been doing this for a while now. So
Yes.
how did you get into the
How did I get into running Ironman? Well, I had watched a program on TV that it was a television broadcast of, I believe it was in Hawaii, the Ironman World Championship. I said, you know what, I think I can do that. So 14 years ago, I signed up for a race. So anyways, this year, long story short, I've done 12 Ironman races so far. This year, I'm on number 13. It's in Ottawa in 3 weeks. So and tomorrow morning, I get up for a 180-kilometer bike ride just to keep me out of trouble.
Well, we wish you the best, and we hope that you end up winning like on the top podium some of these future races too.
I don't think that's possible, but okay.
Until next time.
Thank you so much.